Jason said that I'm going to talk about the power of imperfection. In reality, I'm going to talk about self-love. And I wrote a book about self-love. It's more than just self-love, but I like to say self-love mostly because I'm obstinate, and sometimes I like people to get the response they didn't expect. But whenever people ask me, what are you talking about? And I say self-love, their face relaxes, they smile, and they're like, ha, okay, that thing, you know, the woo-woo stuff. It's the soft skill. It's considered to be the soft skill. The soft and unimportant. And trust me, I've been in personal growth actually for more than 20 years. Being an entrepreneur and a businesswoman who has actually helped to produce quite a lot of authors. Self-love is not a marketable thing. So what I want to tell you though, that self-love is a soft skill which is really hard to master. And I've experienced that over years. So unfortunately, I only have half an hour with you today. Normally I would give my talk for about an hour. So I won't be able to give you everything that I would love to give you, but I want you to start to get the bug of self-love, and that will be my goal for today. If I were to ask you right now, how do you rate your self-love on a scale from 0 to 10? Most of the people, and I've done this speech a lot, most of the people rate themselves pretty high. They would say somewhere 7 to 8. In fact, rate yourself. You don't have to call out your number, but just think on the scale from 0 to 10, how much do you love yourself? And it's a tricky question because right now when you're sitting in this audience and you're doing a good job, you came here, you're listening to wonderful speakers, maybe you're having some transformation, of course you're feeling good about yourself. It's the easy moment to love you. Now, statistics says that 85% of adults and adolescents have low self-esteem. Self-esteem, granted, it's not self-love directly, but it is a symptom of lack of self-love. Because what it means that 85% of grown-ups think that they're not good enough. Something is wrong with them. And that's the statistics, that's not my imagination. So obviously, since I'm trying to explain to the world that the lack of self-love is an epidemic of contemporary population, I'm trying to understand why is it so unsexy? I hope I can use the word sexy. Why is it so unsexy? Why is it so unpopular? Why is it so hard to explain to people that it is important? So the first reason that I came up with is that people think it's not as important as the real life. So you see, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business for 20 years, and I understand how it works. When the cool phase of startup and you being excited wears off, you start seeing the real life problems. I've actually survived quite interesting situations in 20 years in business, and I know how it feels. I don't have time for this wishy-washy stuff. I actually have, economic crisis looming. My customers maybe are leaving me, or they can't pay the prices that I would like to charge them, or my employees are unhappy. And with that, it does seem like I don't have time for well-being, for happiness, for self-love. Self-love is an aspect of your well-being, an important, crucial aspect of your well-being. If you were to imagine yourself having achieved your wildest dreams, in that place, you have reached your goal, bigger than what you imagined. But imagine yourself in that place, but being discontent with yourself. Feeling that you are actually not your best self, that maybe you have compromised something important to you for the sake of that goal. Lack of self-love is going to poison any kind of paradise. So we don't value self-love because we think it's unimportant and don't have time for that. I don't have time for that because my teenage kids don't listen to me. I have to focus on that. Or my business is having a crisis. I have to focus on that. I want to share a story. This summer we were in Norway with our whole family. It was a wonderful trip. And me and my daughter Eve, this daughter Eve is actually Vishen's daughter as well, for those who don't know. Me and my daughter Eve went to a husky farm. It's not a farm, it's a place where they do dog sleds. It's in the northern Norway, in a wonderful city called Tromsø. And there they do their races. So they actually do a race in the middle of winter when it's completely dark and really terrible weather. So they do a race from Tromsø all the way across the northern Norway to Kirkenes on the border with Russia and then back. The race takes about 2 weeks. And they have a a batch of huskies that they have to do this race with. So the huskies are pulling the sled. And an interesting thing is that a lot of people who are in the race, they get into the race frenzy. They actually run their huskies to, well, even death. They have very strict rules. Every day huskies are being checked by a vet. And when the husky is not in a good condition, the husky is removed from the race. And the people who are in the frenzy of the race, the handlers of the husky, very often they say, I'm willing to take the risk. It's so important. I want to keep going. But life, years of experience have proven that this is not how it works. Even if you want to push forward, if your husky is not in good shape, you're not going to make it. And you're going to ruin your dog. We often forget in our frenzy of our real life that your well-being is probably the most important component of your life. In fact, research shows that your probability of you actually hitting that goal and being successful is much higher if you're in a good state, if you're happy, if your well-being is fine. Another reason why people think that self-love is unimportant is because we don't understand it. We live in a very exhibitionist world. If you go on social media, you see all those polished facades. People want you to like them, to approve them. Look at me, approve me, tell me that you like me, and then maybe I'll feel good about myself. So normally, we think that we live in the world where there's too much self-love, or at least self-admiration, self-obsession. We don't know, what does it mean to love you in a healthy way? I get questions, when is self-love too much? When is it selfishness? When is self-love going to prevent you from doing things because you will be complacent? We don't understand the phenomenon, yet any science you take, it starts with definition. How do we define self-love if we don't know what it is? What I want you to understand is that all those expressions that we think are excess of self-love, like self-obsession or needing the approval and the likes and the big audiences, they're not expressions of too much self-love. They're symptoms of the lack of self-love. They're distortions. I don't have time to go deeper into that, but I felt like since I had a picture of one of my kids on the screen, I should have a picture of the other one. This is Hayden. But it has a reason as well. When Hayden was born, I realized that I finally understand what unconditional love means. And I want you to think right now of that one person, maybe two, in your life for whom it's so easy to love. It doesn't require anything. It's effortless, unconditional. It may be your child, it may be your sibling, your parent, your lover. It may be your pet, that works as well. For most of us who are introverts, it can be a plant, like Little Prince in the Rose. It doesn't matter. This one creature that you love effortlessly. For me, this is the bar of the healthy relationship with yourself. That's why I have the picture of Hayden there, actually, because he's very often the reminder. Hayden is imperfect, and I love him not despite his imperfections, but for everything that he is. Can you love yourself this way? We're going to find it out. In relationships, there's a rule. If you want your relationship to thrive, you have to invest into it. Whether it's your relationship with your lover, your children, with your family, maybe a relationship with money, with success, with your body, with health. If you want the relationship to thrive, you have to invest in it. Yet self-love is that unsexy topic that we neither prioritize nor understand. So what happens? We don't deal with that because we don't know. We don't understand. How do I do self-love properly? And my experience in personal growth and transformation tells me that whatever you don't invest in is going to unfortunately suffer, whether you like it or not. So I want to take a little step back because all I can do today, because I don't have all the time I would like to have with you, all I can do today is try to explain to you why it is so crucial to learn to love yourself. I will not be able to explain to you how to do it, but at least if I could share that bug with you, I'd feel happy. But for that, I need to take a step back. And I need to start with one of the most important laws in personal growth and transformation. And again, since I've been in this industry for a long time, publishing a lot of people, I can tell you this is probably one of the most important things. It's that your goal defines your perception. And we're going to do a little mental experiment right now. I hope you bear with me. I want you to look around right now. Oh, by the way, we're going to do 2 experiments. And it's a very big room for me. I can't see anyone at the back, so I really want you to help me and to follow my instructions. We only have half an hour here, so just, if you can promise me that you will follow my instructions, it would be much easier and more manageable. Thank you. I can see some people. So I want you to look around right now, around your room, and find everything yellow. Everything yellow. Take a moment just to look around and find everything which is yellow. It's a very simple experiment, and if you've done that, good, you will still fail. So now I want you to close your eyes. But honestly, close your eyes. Close your eyes, and I want you to recall everything blue that was in the room. Take a moment, recall everything blue that was in the room. It's a little harder here because we're all covered in this purple light, so we're not sure about the colors. Okay, now open your eyes and look around. It can be small details. This is actually a very simple thing. It's psychology, it's biology of our brain. There's this region in the brain, reticular activating system, and I'm very much simplifying because it has different functions. But one of the functions of reticular activating system is that it filters out the stimuli. We live in the world which is full of signs, noise, things that we would actually get crazy if we noticed everything. So obviously our brain filters it out and pays attention to things that matter to us. Hence I said, your goal defines your perception. If your goal was to look for yellow things, then obviously some of the blue things would have been lost in your perception. In fact, when you looked around, I wonder how many things you might have noticed which you didn't notice in the beginning. That's how actually everything in personal growth works. If you believe that old age is going to bring you sickness, you're going to see that because that's your goal. You're going to see proof of that. That's how our beliefs are being fed. That's, in essence, anatomy of your beliefs. Whatever you believe in is true for you. As Marissa said, you might as well tell yourself a better lie. And if we were very philosophical, I would say that the whole world is an illusion, elaborate illusion. So let's talk about perceptions a little bit longer, because I want you to think now about perception of you. You know, there's one very annoying rule about personal growth, which when I heard it first, I hated it. You train the world how it's going to perceive you. And I've spoken with, not this very speech, but with the same speakers at different events. And I remember once going on a stage, it was a speech I did about awareness. And I was wondering, am I making sense? Does anybody want to listen to that? I made this speech, I made it outwardly quite okay. 3 months later, I made the same speech in a completely different state of mind. I knew that I was doing the right thing. I was saying the right things. Now, I can tell it with statistical accuracy because we are going to ask you, how did you like different speeches? You will rate them. The same speech delivered pretty much the same. In one case, I came on stage wondering. This is the most disastrous thought on stage. Does that even make sense? Does anybody want to hear that? And the other one, when I came on stage knowing that I'm doing what I have to do. And the feedback, numerical feedback, showed that depending on my mood, I get very different results, depending on how I feel about myself. In fact, again, research says that your success depends 50% on your competency, which means your skills, your knowledge, how good you are in what you do. 50%. The other 50% is your confidence. And that's research, replicable. So your confidence actually matters a lot. Your self-perception matters a lot. Again, confidence is not strictly speaking self-love, but confidence depends very much. It's a symptom, whether you're confident or not, is very often the symptom of how good your relationship with yourself is. So I want to do another experiment. So, in the beginning I asked you, how do you rate your self-love on a scale from 0 to 10? And you had some number, and you're probably feeling well right now. But sometimes we don't feel so good about ourselves. Sometimes we have situations where, for example, I've been pushing off a project, and I start feeling stressed, and I start feeling upset with myself. Why can't I get myself together? What's wrong with me? Sometimes, you lash out at someone, and you feel bad about it. You feel bad that you lashed out, and you kind of should apologize, but also you don't feel like it, and you're not feeling so good about yourself. Or maybe, right down straightforward, you do a project and it fails. Or the moment when you just blush. You have done something and you blush. Do you guys all have this moment in your mind? Can you lift your hand if you have your moment? Because I bet every one of us has a moment when we don't feel good about ourselves. Now, keep that moment in mind. Now I want you to close your eyes. Again, close your eyes. It's going to be a little meditative, but not meditation. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, relax. Relax your body, relax your mind. You're in a safe place. You're safe, everything is fine. Now I want you to bring back that moment when you didn't feel quite good about yourself. Imagine what's happening. What are you doing? Do you hear someone talking to you? Relive that moment right now. What are you feeling? I hope you blush a little bit. What is that feeling? Is that shame, frustration, irritation, guilt, anger? What is this feeling? Now, for the sake of this experiment, slightly increase the intensity of this feeling. And now think of your self-talk in that moment. What do you tell yourself? Do you say what so many of us say? What's wrong with you? Why so stupid? Maybe that moment when you blush is when you look in the mirror actually and what you see you don't like. What do you say to yourself? Just hear this self-talk in your head. Why can't you just do that? Everybody's doing that. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you is probably like one of the most common things. Good, now I want you to open your eyes. And I want you to take out your notebooks, or if you don't have a notebook, then take out your phone, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to write down your self-talk. Don't be afraid, write it down the way you say it to yourself. So what is your self-talk? Just write it as it is. And if you feel like running away right now, going to have a drink or to the toilet, you can't run away from yourself. Don't hold back, write it as it is. In fact, I'm sure you can remember the moments when you were very harsh on yourself. Just do it, it's important. Good. And now I want you to look back at me, and we're going to do the second part of the experiment. I want you to find a partner, just now. Grab someone with your eyes. And now I'm going to give you 6 minutes to do this next part. I want you to exchange your notes. I know I tricked you, I said it's safe, but it is still safe. I want you to exchange your notes, and I want you so partner A gets the notes from partner B and reads out the notes to partner B. I want you to read out each other's notes to each other. I'll give you 6 minutes, so after 3 minutes I'll ask you to change. It's important that you change roles. Please do that now. Okay, now I want you to stop, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale. While you exhale, I believe you cannot talk. Guys, you promised to cooperate. I have very short time on this stage. I really need your cooperation. Thank you. And really, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale. Exhale and just reflect for a moment, how did it feel to hear your own words spoken back to you? And imagine for a short moment, bring back to your memory, not to your memory, just to your mind, that person who you love so effortlessly, so unconditionally. And now imagine saying these very words to that person. Just replace yourself with that person. In my case, I would be saying, not Kristina, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just get your things together? I would say, Hayden, what's wrong with you? Why are you always doing that? Or Eve. Imagine saying those words to the person that you love unconditionally. I wish I had more time with you guys. You can open your eyes now so that I could get you through this exercise properly with stops and reflections. But I'm going to move forward and tell you this thing. This is the picture, this is the perception that you train the world to have of you. This, not your aspiration. Not your best version of yourself, not that perfect Kristina, that best version of me. That's your beacon, that's your lighthouse. That's what you go for. But how you train the world to perceive you is how you talk about yourself. And not just in those moments when you're doing well, particularly in those moments when you need your own love most. So since we're talking about aspirations, you know, I'm a huge fighter against perfectionism, although I am a perfectionist, forever perfectionist. You know, and half the people, most of the people who come to personal growth, and I've seen millions in 20 years, they are perfectionists at heart. Maybe we think that perfection is this word that applies to women, but in reality, men are also perfectionists. Their perfectionism is about being successful and meaningful, you know, job, rich, whatever. We are all or strong. We all have that picture of perfection. And that picture of perfection is very often the cause of the problem. Because you see, the further the picture of real you is from the picture of perfection, the harder it is to love the real you. It's so easy to love the best version of me. But it is exactly when you are not your best self, when you need your love the most, when you need your support the most. Again, I told you that that beacon, that bar for self-love for me, for healthy relationship with myself, is my children, is people whom it's so easy to love unconditionally, effortlessly. Would you talk like that to them? Like what you are, how you talk to yourself? What I want to tell, maybe I shouldn't show you this. The thing is that, you see, we get fascinated with our picture of perfection. We don't like what we have right now, and that creates that wound of lack of self-love. And it kind of goes in that circle. And you know, it's not surprising because that's how we are brought up. Our contemporary paradigm works on that. It's not just your parents or your teachers or your friends. The whole world works like that. We are trained from a early age that we have to earn love. When a child behaves according to how a parent expects the child to behave, the child gets love. When the child does something that parent doesn't like, doesn't listen to the parent, doesn't behave, or later does something that the parent disapproves, makes a decision that parent doesn't like, we very often withdraw love as punishment. We deal out love as currency. We give it when we behave well, we take it back when we don't behave well. And when we grow up, we start doing it to ourselves. We give ourselves love according to our behavior. So when you have the picture of perfection in front of you and your real self doesn't correspond to that picture of perfection, it's really hard to love you. What I wanted to say, and you saw that slide, is that love doesn't need to be earned. As I said, I don't love Hayden despite his imperfections. You deserve love just because you are. It doesn't need to be earned. I know it's really hard to believe that because do you remember I said that your goal defines your perception? If you live in a paradigm of the world where love needs to be earned, everything that you do is going to prove that this is the case. You're going to be the living, breathing proof of the belief that you hold true. So if I'm telling you that love doesn't need to be earned, if that paradigm hasn't been yet, in your picture of reality, it's really hard to notice that truth, that proof initially. But love doesn't need to be earned. And the only person whose love you can reasonably expect is not your child, not your parent, not your sibling, not your lover, it's you. You're the only person who has that privilege to love yourself. In fact, the world doesn't need your perfection. You think it does, but it doesn't. The world needs the real you. And again, our paradigm says that you have to be fixed. You have to be fixed because something is wrong with you. That's what our self-talk is about. What's wrong with you? You have to fix your discipline. You have to fix your health routines. You have to fix your relationships. We keep fixing. Fixing implies that you're broken. And your goal defines your perception. If you think you're broken, you're going to find the proof that you're broken. What I was trying in this half an hour, this little time that I had on stage with you, what I was trying to impress on you is that, you're not actually broken. Nobody's actually broken. But that withdrawal of love that you have been doing as punishment for yourself might have left a wound which might need healing. And healing implies that you're human. And it's okay. You're imperfect, and that's what makes you beautiful. So what I wanted to leave you with is that world doesn't need your perfection, it needs the real you. And if you can find the courage to actually prioritize self-love and invest into that relationship, I think this will be the best gift you will give to the world. Thank you.